Hey guys, Sam here, and welcome to another review. Today, just like I did with Season 1 of Infinity Train, I'm gonna look at the first season of another show. An anime, in fact. And fun fact, on top of the other fun fact, this was the only anime I ever watched religiously as a kid. Bakugan Battle Brawlers. Coming out in Japan in 2007 and in the US in 2008, this was the only anime I ever got into. Not Pokemon, not Yu-Gi-Oh!, not Digimon, and not Sailor Moon. It was this show. And to be honest, I've never really gotten into another anime after that. Don't get me wrong, I understand that anime is a big part of many people's lives, their childhoods, and there are some very iconic animes out there. I don't know, I was just never into it like others were. I preferred Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network shows while growing up. Please don't hate me, I was a sheltered kid, I didn't know what I was doing! Anyway, Bakugan was the show that made me do what all big fans do. Watch it all the time, quote the lines, buy the toys, play the game itself, etc. I used to play this with a few friends in school, and I remember one kid who was 2 grades higher than me play this with me a lot on the school bus. And because he firmly believed in the rules of Bakugan, he'd actually take some of my Bakugan whenever I lost. The bastard. So yeah, I watched the entire first season of the show, all 52 episodes. Yep, that's right, this one season had more episodes than the entire runtime of the Owl House. Just another reason why the fan base hated having the show end. Back to Bakugan. After I saw the first season and collected a lot of the toys, I kind of drifted away from it. I had other shows that interested me at the time, so that means I didn't watch any of the other spin-offs and subsequent seasons. In fact, I hadn't seen this show in almost 15 years, but I've decided to give it a watch and see if it holds up. Is it better than I remember it? Do I find it to be worse? Or are my feelings on it still the same? Well, let's find out. You know it, summary, final thoughts, fun facts, and a few jokes. Good, Crystal. Since there's a lot that happens in the show, I'll try to keep it brief. One day, a bunch of random cards came from the sky. Some kids picked them up and were given these colorful balls, but once you threw them onto the cards, they turned into these large, unique, and powerful monsters. Kids were fascinated by them, so much so, they decided to make a game based on them. Bakugan. One of these avid players, or brawlers as they're called, is Dan, a boy who loves Bakugan just as much as anyone else. He was one of the people that made up the rules of the game, has some good friends he talks to online who are also brawlers, and his biggest goal is to be the #1 player in the world. But things change when he meets a Bakugan that is not only more powerful than others, but one that can talk to him. It's a Dragonoid, who Dan calls Drago. But he isn't here just to fight and win silly games. He's here because his world, Vestroia, which is where all the Bakugan come from, is falling apart. You see, there was someone named Naga who wanted all the power. First, he wanted to absorb the energy from the Silent Core and the Infinity Core, which keeps that world intact. But when he gets sucked into the Silent Core, the world turns chaotic and destructive. This is something that affects the human world too. If Naga gets his way, absorbing the Silent and Infinity Cores, he'll be too powerful to stop, and both Vestroia and Earth will be gone. So it's up to Dan and his friends, Runo, Marucho, Julie, Shun, and Alice, to stop him, and his forces like Hal G and Masquerade, who not only takes people's Bakugan and has them sent to the Doom Dimension, but also recruits other brawlers to help him in his quest for power. But Dan's friends have their own powerful Bakugan that talk too. Runo has Degrera, Marucho has Preyas, Julie has Gorm, Shun has Skyrus, and Alice later gets Hydronoid. And you know what ensues. Comedy, drama, big epic battles, chaos, power, all that stuff. So, what are my thoughts? First off, I'll say that the story, while having a lot of details and the tendency to over-explain a little, can be simple to follow. There are a lot of characters, some subplots, and different plans being made, but the main goal is clear. Stop Naga, or the road goes to shit. Simple enough. Though the story can be a tad predictable at times, but I usually ask myself this: is the journey to the destination worth it? Well, for the most part, it is. There can be stories that are gripping, fun, and epic, but there are also stories you have seen many times before. Sometimes they can be just filler too. Sometimes fun, sometimes standard. That same predictability is associated with some of the characters. Oh gee, we have two main characters, a boy and girl that fight all the time, and yet they work so well together against their foes, they care about each other deep down, and others think they do like each other but won't say it out loud. Do they hook up? Oh my god, what a surprise! Now let me make it clear, I don't hate the characters in this show. There are a few that can be very annoying, like this one kid who becomes Shun's apprentice, and this one guy that keeps challenging Dan over and over but still gets his butt kicked. Dude, you've lost to him 3 or 4 times, let it go, brawl with someone else, why don't you? But there are many I do like, including the main cast. They all have some cliched characteristics, the hothead, the bratty girl, the smart child, the mysterious loner, the scatterbrained sweetheart, and the simple nice girl. But all of them have distinct personalities, designs, and arts. Dan, like I said, can be a hothead. He's cocky, arrogant, and he can say and do stupid things. But as the series goes along, he does get better. He becomes more sincere and compassionate. When he messes up, he does try his best to make up for it. He also becomes a better leader, a better brawler, a better friend, and a better person in general. Plus, out of all the characters, he has the most iconic voice.
My name is Dan, and together with my friends Runo, Marucho, Julie, Mr. Hotshot himself, Shun, and Alice, we are the Bakugan Battle Brawlers!
Runo is pretty similar in personality. She can be stubborn, argumentative, and have that boys stay girls rule mindset sometimes, but she's also a good strategic brawler, confident, and kind to others, like her friend Alice and her Bakugan Tigrera. Marucho is a sweet kid with high intelligence and a lot of money. Jeez, if I had this kind of home and this kind of way to fly around the world, I probably wouldn't be as generous as this kid is. He's also a people pleaser, especially around his parents, and that's something he later grows out of as the series goes along. Julie is the sweet, bubbly girl in the bunch. Sometimes she can be scatterbrained, but she's very nice, optimistic, a capable brawler with the most badass brawler pose ever, in my opinion, and later learns to love how special and unique she is. She was my personal favorite. Shun is the mysterious one. He's often in the corner with his arms crossed. But he's also a great brawler, has some leadership qualities like Dan, is willing to help his friends no matter what, and he's someone that doesn't say too much, but when he does say something, you listen. Although he's my personal least favorite, I still liked him. And there's Alice. She's seemingly sweet, knows a lot about Bakugan but doesn't really brawl, and is an all-around good person. But she has her own troubles that later impact the overall story. As the series goes along, you do warm up to these characters nicely, and you do want to see them triumph in the end. Same goes for the talking Bakugans themselves. Drago is a very cool character, and I always hung on to every word he said. Tigrera is cool too, calm and methodical, but also a badass fighter in every way. Gorm is cool, along with having the coolest and deepest voice. Skyrus is more relaxed than the others, but she's also just as deadly in battle. Hydronoid is alright, and I do like the multiple heads. But the one that was awesome and had the most personality to me was Preyas.
Bakugan, Preyas, stand! Mind if I play? Be serious!
You mind?
Not only does he get a lot of funny moments, but he's also just as fun to root for. He can have his serious moments as well, and I can see why Marucho and him are so close. He also has his cool abilities, and is someone you don't want to underestimate. The other supporting characters are nice too. They're not the most complex characters, but most of them are likable and unique in their own ways too. I think my favorite of them all is Billy, not just because of his connection to Julie, his best friend for many years, but also his design, his Bakugan, and because he throws his Bakugan into the playing field like a baseball pitcher. I used to be a pitcher, and I love it. I think that's how I play Bakugan too. Then there are the villains. Their motivations are simple, but how they try to accomplish them is interesting and fun. Naga is an alright villain. His backstory about not feeling like he belonged in any group of Bakugan in Vestroya, so he wants to try and turn it into his own image of, power and perfection, is kind of interesting. But honestly, the other villains he has with him are more menacing. Hal G has a unique design, and how he was created is actually rough to watch. He used to be a very smart and talented scientist and Alice's sweet grandfather, but of course, things went wrong. He got consumed by negative energy and turned into this. Plus, if you are a Bakugan fan, you do remember how he enters a room. Hal G! But to be fair, the most memorable villain was Masquerade. He is one guy that you not only love to hate, but you will never forget him if you saw this show. His design, his mask, and his voice are memorable enough. But there's more. He is just ruthless. He doesn't care who he faces. If he wants to beat you, he will do everything he can to beat you. If he wants you to join his mission, he will make you join him. And if you cross him, he will make you pay. Anytime he shows up, you know things are gonna get bad. In my opinion, he was my favorite villain in the season. But he also has that element of mystery to him. Who is he? Where did he come from? What is his real goal? The series does answer this later, and we do get more layers from him, but I won't go into them so you won't get spoiled if you haven't seen this show before. But I will say his battles with the Brawlers, especially with Dan, are intense. When he beats someone, it feels like the absolute worst thing anyone could experience. The losing party is just devastated, while Masquerade just smirks, laughs, and walks away. Ooh, you hate him for it, but that's what makes him such a good villain too. I think my favorite battle in the show as a whole is between Masquerade and Dan in this large arena. They use their best Bakugans in the fight over and over again, and every round ends in a draw. The field becomes a mess, the bleachers are being destroyed, Dan and Masquerade's clothes are being ripped apart, the emotions are rising, and they just keep going until one of them can't go on anymore. It's probably the most heart-pounding and badass brawl I've ever seen in this show. Period. Speaking of the brawls, here are my thoughts on the game itself. It can be fun and engaging. It may be a little similar to Yu-Gi-Oh! When using cards and your own monsters, but the power-ups, the different Bakugans, their elements, fire, water, light, earth, wind, and darkness, and the attacks are unique in their own way. Like I said, I bought some of the toys and cards while growing up, and since my favorite color is red, I got the Fire Bakugan. The Pyrus Bakugan if you want to get technical. But the other elements and worlds are cool and creative too. The battles themselves can be entertaining and may get you invested, especially in the beginning of the show. Stopping all reality to do the battle is both cool and kind of funny. Don't worry, I have a joke about that saved for later. Anyway, the brawls are cool. You do want to see the good guys win, and it does suck when you see some of them lose and see their Bakugan go into the Doom Dimension, which is like an internal hell for these creatures. But as the series went along, I did kind of get tired of the brawls. Not what's in them, but the frequency of them. Almost every single episode has at least one. Almost every single one has the same phrases being said repeatedly. Hey, you want to play a bad drinking game? Take a shot every single time these characters say the phrase Bakugan Brawl.
Bakugan Brawl! Bakugan Brawl! Bakugan Brawl! Bakugan Brawl! Bakugan Brawl! Bakugan Brawl! Bakugan Brawl!
How many times do they say it? I don't know. I lost count after 100. Trust me, you play that drinking game, you will die. I'm not saying that there were bad brawls, but if there was a certain brawl that really didn't matter much to the story, I kinda skipped it. I did go back and watch them later, but I still had that same tired feeling. And that popped up as the season was getting to the later stages. Bottom line, if you can get through them all, it's not that bad, but it can get a little annoying. Honestly, there were a couple times I said to myself, you know, instead of brawling, why don't they just hit them? Seriously, just have a scene where Dan and Masquerade meet, and just before Masquerade pulls out his cards, wham! Deck him and watch him fall to the floor. It probably wouldn't solve everything, but it'd be pretty funny. Now let's get into the animation. Like I said, the designs of the worlds, characters, and more are cool, and there is some really nice animation, especially during the brawls. The characters are expressive, they move nicely, and they manage to work well both comedically and dramatically. But there are times when it can get stiff, and it has the same problem the 90s Spider-Man cartoon show has. Its animation is good, but they reuse old clips a lot. Now, I don't mean during the previously on Bakugan segments, I mean during the show. For example, they have 2 separate episodes where they pick up Shun via jet in the exact same way. They reuse the same throwing Bakugan onto the playing field animations a lot, the reveals of the Bakugan themselves, their power-ups, and more. Now, it's not really that annoying, but it's quite noticeable when you're binge watching the show. Like I did for this review. Yes, I don't go out a lot. Don't judge me!
It's too late now.
Again, not bad, but noticeable. The show also uses some CGI, particularly when the Bakugan open. I honestly didn't find it that distracting. It managed to work okay with the 2D environment in my eyes. To sum it up, the animation is good. I just have my little gripes with it. You also have the voice acting, which is decent. I did watch the American dub, and some of these voice actors do work okay. Sometimes the deliveries can be fast, but that's probably because they're trying to match the animation and lip movements. The music is nice too. Again, there are times it is reused, but like the animation, if it manages to fit the scene and story well, I didn't mind it too much. Also, the use of guitar in the American opening is still something I have stuck in my head to this day. Let me know if you think the American theme is better or the Japanese version is in the comments below.
Two worlds collide on the inside. You gotta fight for what's right before it's gone, gone, gone. This is Bakugan.
Now the humor. It can range from good to okay to kind of nah. There are a few clever lines thrown in and a few clever gags that I didn't remember when I watched it years ago. But then you have other standard jokes, like when Dan and Runo fight, for example. Sometimes it can be humorous, but other times I just roll my eyes at it. It's like Jimmy and Cindy's fighting, except I kind of enjoyed their arguments better. They were both smart kids, and they had some logic to their arguments. Dan and Runo just have the typical arguments a young boy and girl would have. Yeah, again, do they get together? Yeah, of course. Alright, in all seriousness, I don't think them getting together is a bad thing. It's not one of my favorite romances ever, but I can't understand it. They do have chemistry. They both do nice things for each other, and they do care about each other. They may not always say it, but they feel it. The show does explain that they've grown up together, and Dan was the only boy that played with her when they were younger. I know some don't like having those kinds of characters get together at the end, but I can stomach it because the season is long. Plus, I think it's fitting. If they got them together in the middle of the season, it would have been a little too quick. Instead, they let it play out, and it works okay. I know this couple has fans, so just know that I think they're fine. Again, it's 52 episodes. Sometimes it doesn't feel that long, which is a good thing. I did get invested in what would happen next, and I still kept watching. You do have some standard ones and decent ones, but then you get some real gems, like one where Shun's mother's health is on the line, giving more development to Shun's character. There are some good episodes where the other Bakugans get to evolve, but I think my favorite one is the episode where Dan meets Joe, someone that the Battle Brawlers think works with Masquerade. Dan meets him at the hospital, and Joe says he'll answer his questions. If they brawl. Of course. Turns out this is Joe's first time brawling, and he's not too bad at it. But as the game continues and Joe's about to throw another Bakugan in, this happens.
Bakugan!
Wow, that got dark quick. Yeah, for context, Joe is a sickly kid, and the intensity and thrill of the brawl made him lose consciousness. This makes Dan feel terrible, and he hopes that he's okay. And thankfully, he is. Thanks to Naga's sister, Wyvern. Yeah, Wyvern is a character that absorbed the Infinity Core, which Naga wants while he has the Silent Core. With the Infinity Core's powers, Wyvern restores Joe's health. Yeah, she's kind of the Jesus of the show. Also, she had a close relationship with Drago, just to make things juicier. Anyway, when it's all said and done, Joe joins the Battle Brawlers and becomes a valuable informant to the Bakugan community, warning them about Masquerade and the other bad guys. It's a really good episode. It tells us to not make big assumptions on people we don't know. They are more than meets the eye. Are there some light moments in the episode? Yeah, definitely. But I'm glad episodes like this can have their serious moments. Personally, this was the standout episode for me. There is a lot more, but I don't wish to overstuff the video. Let's just say that Bakugan does manage to stand out on its own. It's not a clone, and not a ripoff. It may have similarities to other animes, but it's still its own show. The world building is cool, the brawls are cool, the characters are cool, the voice acting is decent, the writing is decent, the villains are decent, and it can be very entertaining. So the best words to describe it are cool, decent, and entertaining. Is it the best show ever? No, it's not even in my top 10. But it's still good in my eyes. I did enjoy it immensely as a kid, but now that I'm older, I do see more good things and the flaws. So it has slightly gotten worse over time for me, but not by much. If anyone is interested in this show, check it out. If you used to be a fan and haven't seen it in a while, like me, return to it. If it's not for you, then I completely understand. So the best final score I can give the entire first season of Bakugan is a 7 out of 10. I modestly recommend it. Alright, let's get into some fun facts. Number 1. Like other animes, there were parts of the original version that were changed for American audiences. Some examples include a few lines revised or taken out, a couple occasions where characters swore, US audiences got the Doom Dimension, while Japanese audiences got the Death Dimension. Tigrera had a male voice actor in the Japanese version, while the US had a female voice actor. Not bad, but noticeable if you play them back to back. The opposite change happening with Dan, female to male, and for the Arabic dub, characters like Runo, Julie, and Alice had their outfits censored by having their midriffs and legs covered. I'm not sure if that's a cultural thing or not, so I won't go further on that because I don't really know too well. All I'll say is, Julie's outfit and personality made her one of my childhood crushes. I didn't mention it in the crushes video, but she was one of them. Number 2, the director and script supervisor of the show, Mitsuo Hashimoto and Atsushi Meikawa, hopefully I said those names right, were also involved with the Dragon Ball franchise. In fact, the show does make some references to that show too. Number 3, Bakugan was immensely popular when it came out. The cards, the toys, the video game spin-offs, etc. According to IGN, it was one of the leading kids games on the Nintendo DS in 2009, and the Toy Industry Association gave Bakugan Battle Brawlers the 2009 Property of the Year award. That I can agree with. Number 4, as you'd expect, there are many seasons of the show. New Vestroya, Gondolian Invaders, Mactinium Surge, and a reboot called Bakugan Battle Planet. Let me know if you want me to watch them in the comment section below. And number 5, the show has a 5.6 out of 10 on IMDb. I don't personally think it should be that low, but I can understand why some don't like it. Although I can't agree with what this guy says. What happened to good cartoons? 1 out of 10. The show is mundane and pointless, and you can tell that it was made on the cheap by how poor the animation is. Just terrible all around. Every episode comes to a pointless Bakugan brawl, which is never enticing. Many of the shots are from the back or of robots so that they don't have to animate the facial expressions. It's completely riding on the back of Pokemon fans, hoping to bring them into this terrible, boring world. Oh, and they love the word, huh? They say it every 3 or 4 lines. If I was a kid, I would never watch this, and I urge you to stay away. Yuck! I wish all the characters would just fall in the Doom Dimension and stay there. Huh? Yeah, aren't you guys glad I grew out of this nonsense? I swear, if I started reviewing in 2010, I would have been even more insufferable. Also, what happened to good cartoons? Well, I wonder what he has to say about cartoons that came afterwards. Oh, he only made 1 review. Come on, man, you can't just dib after only 1. You gotta give us more. Can you take it? Or should you be in the Doom Dimension? Disclaimer, I am joking. If you couldn't tell, you must either be humorless, tone deaf, or both. Anyway, let's get into the jokes.
Bakugan! Field open!
Well, I hate to be caught in that. Imagine if these same kids started playing right outside a couple's house before they were about to make love for the first time. Alright, it's time to put it in. Oh, whoa. Is that what an orgasm feels like? I want another one.
Come on, soldier, look alive. Lift those knees. Move it, move it, move it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Count it out. I can't hear you, boy. That's gonna hurt. Come on, soldier. Get your butt back up here. Double time. Are you numbskull?
You will not laugh. You will not cry. You will learn by the numbers. I will teach you. Now get up. Get on your feet.
Okay, 1 non-fat espresso. Sorry for the wait, guys, but here you go.
Aw, they have a crush on a 14-year-old girl. No, I'm not kidding. That's her age in the season. For the others, it's either 13 or 12 or 11. They're even younger in the Japanese version. Honestly, aside from Marucho, I thought they were all teenagers when I was a kid. Look at them, especially the girls. Hopefully there's no gusts of wind around Runo. That'd be bad for her and get the perverts to pass out. Yes, there is. I don't need to look it up to know there is some out there. Rule 34 means everything is fair game, even if it involves children.
I'm gonna be sick.
Look, I'll give them credit for moving on their own and finding something to ride in, but for such intelligent creatures, this was a stupid move. Where would they be able to go? Are they that suicidal? What if they really did get hit by those cars?
Entering Ohio, watch out for Drew. Boom.
ね、ちょっと血は喧嘩ならよそでやってくれない？うるさいわね。そんなんじゃないわよ。
Oh, there's a big surprise! That's an incredible... I think I'm gonna have a heart attack and die from that surprise!
Alright, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Also, let me know what you think of Bakugan and this video in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, my name is Sam, and good night, everybody.